Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
In November 2025, a big problem began in East Asia. Japan's new leader, Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, made an important comment about Taiwan. She spoke in Japan's parliament about how Japan might act if Taiwan faced a military threat. Her words were different from what Japanese leaders usually say. This comment quickly angered China. Beijing, China's capital, saw it as a serious challenge to its interests. Very soon, Japan and China were in a tough diplomatic situation. It was one of the most serious disagreements between the two countries in a long time. China quickly decided to show its power. It started by using its military. China held special training exercises with its armed forces in the region. At the same time, China also used its economic strength. This means it used its power in trade and business to pressure Japan. China wanted to show its firm stance and strength to other countries. This event made the situation in East Asia more dangerous. This part of the world is very important for many global activities, but it can also be very unstable. This story will show how Prime Minister Takaichi's words led to China's strong reaction. It will explain how China used its military and economic power. It will help us understand the risks and dangers that developed in East Asia because of this big problem. 2. A new leader's words. Japan had a new leader in November 2025. Her name was Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. She was Japan's first female prime minister and had only been in office for less than 1 month. People knew Prime Minister Takaichi for her very strong ideas about China. She often spoke openly about making Japan's military stronger and ready for challenges. She strongly believed that China was Japan's greatest strategic challenge for its future safety. Her becoming prime minister showed a clear change towards a bolder defense policy for Japan. This new path had been slowly developing, but with her, it moved much faster. On November 7th, during a meeting in Japan's parliament, a serious question came up. It was about what Japan would do if China used its military against Taiwan. Prime Minister Takaichi's answer was very direct and clear. This was a big change from how Japanese leaders usually spoke. For many decades, Japan used very careful and unclear words about such sensitive topics. They tried to avoid saying anything too specific. But Takaichi did not follow this old way. She said that if warships were used with military force, it could be a situation that puts Japan's very existence in danger. This meant Japan might use its right to help friends if Taiwan was attacked. This is called collective self-defense. This was a very clear message. She clearly linked Taiwan's safety to Japan's own national survival. Other leaders had avoided saying this so directly. This statement was much stronger than Japan's usual careful language. It used Japan's 2015 law, which allows it to help allies. Later, Prime Minister Takaichi tried to make her words sound a little softer. 3 days later, she told Parliament that her comments were about a what-if situation, a possible future event. She added that she would not make such specific scenarios a regular topic of discussion again. However, she clearly refused to take back her original remarks. She stood firm on what she had said. This decision was important for what happened next between Japan and China. 3. China's strong words. China reacted quickly and with great anger to Japan's recent comments about Taiwan. In just a few days, many different Chinese government groups spoke out together. They issued coordinated statements, showing how deeply upset Beijing was and clearly stating its demands. This fast and strong response marked a serious turn in the situation. Chinese officials immediately demanded that Japan take back the words spoken by its prime minister. Lin Jin, a spokesperson for China's foreign ministry, declared that Japan must immediately correct and retract its vile remarks. He warned that if Japan failed to do so, it would bear all the consequences. Another foreign ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning, added that Prime Minister Takaichi's comments had seriously damaged the political foundation of Japan-China relations. These statements showed China's firm position. The language from China became even harsher. Sui Jian, China's consul general in Osaka, posted a very strong message on social media. He wrote that the filthy head that recklessly intrudes must be cut off without a moment's hesitation. Many people saw this message and understood it as a veiled threat aimed at Prime Minister Takaichi. Even though Sui Jian later deleted the post after Japan's government protested, the message had already spread widely. It revealed a strong sense of nationalist anger that Beijing allowed to be expressed publicly. To show its displeasure even more, China announced it would cancel important meetings planned between Chinese and Japanese officials. Premier Li Cheng, a high-ranking Chinese leader, informed his Japanese partners he would not meet Prime Minister Takaichi at the G20 summit in South Africa. This public rejection clearly showed Beijing's deep unhappiness and its refusal to engage diplomatically at a high level. Finally, China's military also issued clear and direct warnings. On November 14, China's Ministry of Defense stated without doubt that if Japan dares to intervene militarily in a Taiwan crisis, it will suffer a crushing defeat. This warning sent a strong message, making it absolutely clear that China would not tolerate Japan getting involved with its military in any problem regarding Taiwan. The swift and powerful reaction from China made the situation very tense, showing just how seriously Beijing views the issue of Taiwan. 4. Hitting the wallet. The strong words from Beijing quickly turned into real actions. China started to hit Japan where it hurt most, its wallet. On November 14, 2025, China's Foreign Ministry gave a warning. It told Chinese people not to travel to Japan. The ministry said this was because of safety worries and more crimes against Chinese visitors. But many people knew this warning was really about Prime Minister Takaichi's comments on Taiwan. Chinese airlines quickly followed the government's message. Big airlines like Air China, China Southern Airlines, and China Eastern Airlines made an important announcement. They offered full money back or free changes for anyone with flights to Japan until the end of the year. This move made it hard for Chinese people to visit Japan, using tourism as a tool against Japan. This decision had a fast and big effect on Japan. Chinese tourists are a very important group for Japan's economy. About 1/4 of all foreign visitors to Japan come from China. Japanese companies that make money from tourism started to suffer. Hotels in big cities like Tokyo and Osaka, which had many Chinese guests, worried about losing business. Big companies, especially those selling luxury goods and cosmetics like Shiseido, saw their value drop by more than 10%. Many other businesses connected to travel and fun also lost money. China did not stop there. On November 17, China's Ministry of Education also gave advice. It told students to be very careful if they plan to study in Japan. The ministry said there were more crimes against Chinese people in Japan. This message aimed to stop Chinese students from going to Japanese universities. These students bring money to Japan and help keep the two countries connected. While China used economic pressure, its military also showed its power. From November 17 to 19, China held military exercises in the Yellow Sea. The China Maritime Safety Administration announced that military ships would conduct live-fire drills. This meant they would practice shooting. Special areas of the sea were closed. These drills reminded everyone that China had military strength and was ready to show it during this time of high tension. China was sending a clear message that it had many ways to react. 5. How the world watched. Japan tried to make the situation less tense after Prime Minister Takaichi's comments. Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi spoke publicly, stating that Japan's official position on Taiwan had not changed. He emphasized that Tokyo still aimed for peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Japanese officials asked Beijing to respond appropriately and to prevent their important relationship from getting much worse. However, Tokyo did not back down from Prime Minister Takaichi's main point about Taiwan's security being vital to Japan. Instead, they tried to explain her comments as theoretical scenarios, not fixed policy. This was a way to calm things without fully retracting her words. Taiwan, on the other hand, strongly supported Japan's position. Taiwan's presidential office welcomed Tokyo's firm stance. President Lai Ching-te openly called for Beijing to show restraint, act like a major power, and not become the troublemaker in the region. Lai used his statements to encourage Beijing to demonstrate responsible behavior, rather than continuing with actions that increased tension. Taiwan saw Japan's words as a clear signal of support for its own security. The United States kept a careful public posture. It did not directly endorse or condemn Prime Minister Takaichi's specific remarks. Washington's main goal was to de-escalate the rising tensions between Japan and China. American officials worked to prevent the situation from deteriorating further. They also made sure to state that the U.S.-Japan alliance, their strong military and political partnership, remained robust and unbroken, even with the new tensions between Japan and China. The U.S. aimed to maintain stability while supporting its ally. Many other Asian countries watched the situation very closely. Countries like South Korea paid careful attention, understanding that China might use similar strong actions against them if they took positions that Beijing disliked. This incident served as a clear example. It showed how Beijing could combine military signals with economic pressure to punish nations it believed had gone too far in their diplomatic statements. This made neighboring countries more aware of the potential costs of challenging China's views, especially on sensitive issues like Taiwan. 6. A very important island. Taiwan is an island that is very important for the whole world. It plays a big role in global trade and technology. Each year, goods worth trillions of dollars travel through the seas around Taiwan. This makes Taiwan a key place for shipping and business across the globe. Even more important, Taiwan makes most of the world's advanced computer chips. One company there, TSMC, produces about 54% of all chips for things like phones, cars, and even military equipment. If something happened to Taiwan, like a conflict, it could cause a huge problem for the world economy. Experts say the world could lose hundreds of billions, even trillions of dollars in just 1 year. This would stop factories, affect everyone's daily life, and make many things harder to buy. For China, Taiwan is not just about money or trade. It is a part of China's national pride and a very deep belief that Taiwan must be united with mainland China. China's leaders see Taiwan as a part of their country that needs to come back. They believe this is important to finish what they call the century of humiliation, a time when China faced many problems from other countries. President Xi Jinping and the Chinese government are very clear about this. In October 2025, China passed a new law about Taiwan. This law gives China the legal right to use force against Taiwan if the island declares independence or if peaceful ways to unite are no longer possible. Japan's ideas about its own security have changed a lot over time. For many decades, Japan was not clear about what it would do if China used its military against Taiwan. This was called strategic ambiguity. It meant Japan avoided saying anything too strong, partly because its constitution asks for peace and partly because of its important alliance with the United States. However, this unclear position started to disappear some years ago. In 2015, Japan made new laws. These laws allowed Japan to help its allies if their safety was threatened, even if Japan itself was not directly attacked. This was a very big step. Later, official papers from Japan started to openly say that Taiwan's safety was directly connected to Japan's own safety. Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi has been a leader in making Japan's support for Taiwan much clearer. Before she became Prime Minister, she visited Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te in April 2025. They talked about working together on technology and defense. China did not like these meetings. Her becoming Prime Minister showed that Japan was ready to take a stronger stance on security issues, especially concerning China and Taiwan. Her recent words in Parliament were not a surprise. They were a clear continuation of this new path. She plainly stated that Taiwan's security is very important for Japan's own survival. Japan is also increasing its military budget to build up its defense power. This is to be ready for any threats in the Taiwan Strait and nearby areas. The simple reason for Japan's concern is how close Taiwan is. Japan's military planners understand that Taiwan is very near to Japan's Ryukyu Islands. Because of this, what happens to Taiwan directly affects Japan's land and sea defense. The Taiwan Strait, the water between Taiwan and mainland China, is very narrow at some points, only about 100 nautical miles wide. This is a very short distance. Taiwan also sits on important sea routes that Japan uses every day to bring in energy and to send out goods for trade. Its location makes it a critical neighbor for Japan. 7. China's big plan. China feels strongly about Taiwan, viewing it as a part of its own country. For Beijing, this is a deeply important internal matter. When other countries show interest in Taiwan or support its independence, China feels frustrated. Beijing calls Taiwan a red line, meaning it is an issue other countries should not cross. China believes outside involvement with Taiwan is wrong. China often uses its strong economic power instead of military force. This is called economic statecraft. It means using money, trade, and tourism to influence other countries' actions. China uses methods that hurt an economy but do not start a war. These actions are usually reversible. For example, China might advise its people not to visit a country or tell students to be careful about studying there. These steps cause financial problems for businesses and schools in the target country. China has used economic pressure before. In 2016, South Korea allowed the United States to place a missile defense system called THAAD. China saw this as a threat. Beijing quickly put economic pressure on South Korea. Many South Korean shops in China faced problems and some closed. Chinese banks slowed transactions, and people avoided South Korean brands. This caused much damage to South Korea's economy. In 2020, Australia asked for a study into the start of the COVID-19 virus. China showed its disapproval with economic actions. It made it harder to sell Australian goods like wine, beef, and coal in China. Importers were told to find goods elsewhere. Australian products faced delays. These actions caused serious problems for Australian businesses. For Chinese leaders, especially President Xi Jinping, Taiwan is very important. It is central to China's goal of becoming a great nation again. They see it as completing national rejuvenation, making China powerful after past difficulties. Uniting Taiwan with mainland China is a key part of this vision and important for President's legacy. In October 2025, China marked a commemoration day of Taiwan's restoration. This shows Taiwan's deep importance to the Chinese government and people. By responding strongly to any country that supports Taiwan, China sends a clear warning to other nations nearby. Countries like the Philippines, Vietnam, and South Korea watch. China wants them to know that open support for Taiwan might bring economic problems. This creates an informal rule where countries are careful about Taiwan, trying to avoid China's anger and economic pressure. China uses these actions to stop other countries from challenging Beijing's view on Taiwan. People have different ideas about these actions. Some believe it is a normal way for a country to show its power, managing its trade and travel. Others think it is wrong to use economic power to stop countries from expressing their opinions. How the world reacts to this will shape future international relations. Topic 8. What happens next? The problems between Japan and China grew quickly. Their relationship became much worse. High-level meetings were canceled. Both sides used strong words. This showed that leaders in both countries were ready for a difficult time. Japanese businesses that depended on Chinese visitors started to lose money. Many Chinese people stopped traveling to Japan. Students also thought twice about studying there. This put more pressure on Japan's economy and the ties between the two peoples. Japan will likely continue its strong stance on Taiwan under Prime Minister Takaichi. She will not take back her words. Because of this, China will probably keep using economic pressure. They might add more measures later if Japan does not change its mind. This ongoing pressure aims to make Japan pay a price for its actions. Looking to the future, peace in the region faces big questions. Taiwan remains central to this. China still sees Taiwan as part of its own country and wants it back. Japan needs a plan to protect its interests without starting a war. The world economy is also at risk. Taiwan makes many important computer chips. If there is trouble in Taiwan, the world could face a big economic crisis. This situation between Japan and China is a warning for everyone. It shows how delicate peace is in East Asia. What do you think will happen next for Japan and China?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.